So now let's dispel some common misconceptions. And one common misconception is that homeostasis is the involuntary factor of the body that maintains constant body temperature. And you may be scratching your head thinking, well, didn't we just review how the body maintains constant temperature because it's necessary for survival? And didn't you just use this as an example of homeostatic regulation? And that's true. An example of homeostatic regulation is thermal regulation, but it's an example, and not all organisms exhibit this intrinsic form of homeostasis. So let's examine two types of organisms. We have endotherms and ectotherms. An endothermic animal are those which maintain a constant body temperature, and that is metabolically favorable through various internal processes. An ectothermic animal, on the other hand, are those which rely on the environment for thermoregulation. So endothermic thermoregulate through internal processes, whereas ectotherms rely on the environment. And an example of an endothermic animal would be our friendly golden retriever. When our golden retriever has been out in the sun and he's playing with his friends, running around, he gets hot. So to cool down, he intrinsically begins to pant. With panting, our golden retriever is participating in gas exchange, so he's rapidly releasing hot air from the breath in exchange for cool air. When the cool air comes in contact with the moist lining of the lungs and throat, it helps our little buddy reduce his body temperature. On the contrary, ectothermic animals don't have significant internal regulators to maintain body temperature. So some of these animals live in environments where temperatures are practically constant, so there's not much need to necessarily worry about changes to internal body temperature. But in the case of, say, our snake, if they live in environments where temperatures vary widely, like in a desert, ectotherms must use the environment to respond to changes in heat. So let's examine this. In the desert, the average daytime temperature is roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but at night the temperatures can drop to merely 25 degrees. So during the day, to avoid heat exhaustion, the snake will lie under rocks or in shaded regions, and in the late afternoon, the sun is lowering and emitting less direct heat. So the snake will bask in the sun, allowing him to gain enough heat energy to sustain himself through the night. So in other words, the ectotherm must utilize the environment for thermoregulation by becoming active at optimal times, avoiding extreme heat and cold. Now, since we're on the topic of endotherms and ectotherms, another key idea I want to address is the energy needs of these two different types of animals. Can you reason which type of animal requires greater resource consumption? Well, like anything else in nature, regulation comes at a price. So all that thermal stability from automatic internal regulatory systems requires additional energy. At this point, we've dispelled the notion that homeostasis is the involuntary factor of the body that maintains constant body temperature. While that is one valid mechanism of homeostasis, homeostasis itself actually refers to the tendency to maintain and restore steady state conditions that are required for life and survival.